So I'm Andrew Grimes, CEO of Cred. Who here has heard of Cred? Half the room. Who's heard of Clout? Okay, we like Clout just better. I'm going to spend some time talking about Cred, but I don't want to have the whole thing about it because it's not sales pitch. I've actually delivered a session like this twice in the last week to MBA students at the London Business School. And I think it's interesting because they're at the beginning of the journey where they're learning about marketing theory, the old way of doing it, the new way of doing it, and you're all doing it. So I think it's interesting just to see where social media, and as I say, has started to change marketing forever. I'm sure most of you here are on Twitter. Yeah, who's not on Twitter? Okay, you need to get on Twitter today for two reasons. One is brand protection, because someone will grab your name and tweet as you, and you want to have brand protection. And secondly, like me when I joined Twitter in 2007, I thought it was the biggest waste of time. Only by going onto Twitter and playing with it and understanding how it worked, the language people use, did I really get a sense of how it could be used, and now I'm addicted. My wife actually sends me articles about overcoming my Twitter addiction. So you can see how it changed. In fact, this job I got through Twitter. The 16th of January 2011, I was in San Francisco for a weekend, and I tweeted, I'm in San Francisco for the weekend. Another Australian who I'd never met, who followed on Twitter, said, I'm here for the weekend, let's have lunch. We had lunch, he said you should talk to this guy called Jody Rich, who's looking for people in London, and the rest they say is history. So if I had never made that tweet, I would never be standing here today. So I can tell you that Twitter has a good ROI. Every talk I give, I start with this slide. A bit like a fire drill. I'm Australian, I like talking about things that are plain and simple. I have basically summarised social media into a sentence. It's just like real life. How can I say that? It's obviously more complicated. If you go to a conference or you're at the pub, generally you will actually do exactly what happens on social. You'll go and start following people that you know or are interested in, and you'll unfollow people that are not worth talking to. And recently I was at a conference in London and I tried an experiment. I went up to two people I'd never met before and I waited to see how long it would take to be invited to join the conversation. And it took 7 minutes. I looked really boring, or what they were talking about was not something I could add value to. And then a few weeks later, someone was talking about Brisbane, and I was able to go straight into the conversation and say, when were you last in Brisbane? I'm Australian. My point here is, if I'd been in that conversation saying, drink more Coke, or you go to them, they would have shown me the door and said, no, this is just really a conversation, this is not advertising. But as you all know, we're all sitting here because we pay to sell. As David Ogilvy said, it's got to sell, or else. Unfortunately, this is not a selling situation per se. You can't buy space in that conversation. You have to be invited in there to actually add value. And so the reason it took me 7 minutes to get into that conversation was it took 7 minutes until I felt I could add value to what they were saying. And when we did, it was a fantastic conversation. We exchanged cards and we followed up. But the challenge, I think, for the marketers and the marketers here in the room is we are programmed to sell reach and frequency, consideration, all that stuff to get the product out the door and sell more widgets. When it comes to social, the reason I've dumbed it down is that it just is like real life and you can't treat it the same way. Just as if you're not using the tools like Twitter, you don't know how it works versus those that actually do. The best way to describe how brands and advertisers treat social at the moment is a 90-second clip I'm going to play you. This is from the BBC. It was a show that's now off air. It's called Revolution We Televised. It's episode 4. By the way, everything I mentioned today, I'm going to put these slides online. All these short links here will take you to whatever I'm talking about. This one is lc.tl/BMF, be my friend. I wrote it because it basically will sell itself. Hi guys. Hiya. Can I be your friend? Can I be your friend?
All my friends have got like 1,300 friends. I've only got 99. And it's cool to have a lot of friends. Isn't it good to have? Do you want to maybe look at some photos like me with my mates, maybe I want to be my friend more. my life. Really cool you can do it. This is when all my really cool friends threw a party for me. It was really cool and I had a really good time. It was really good. This is like me at a cool party with pretty girls.
Now, what is amazing is you laughed at all the same bits that the students laughed at, the people in Switzerland laughed at. As human beings, we find that a bit uncomfortable because we know that's what we kind of do sometimes and we want more friends. So next time you're designing a campaign or doing a pitch, just think, that crazy Australian guy might have actually made some sense. We can't actually do it the same way. And when a client says to you, we want more likes, we want more fans, be brave enough to ask why. And when I do that, because I can, because I'm not in a retained relationship sometimes, I say, why do you want 100,000 friends? The answer generally is, I don't know, it just sounds like a cool thing to have. Just because you've got lots of friends or followers doesn't mean that you're popular and people actually want to buy your product. And as I'll show later on, you can buy followers, you can buy links, it's so easy to gain this. You can gain credit, you can gain clout, you can gain almost anything. The challenge is how do you know it's been gained and actually avoid it. Speaking of Facebook, there is a brilliant Facebook page called the Condescending Corporate Brand page. These guys, actually based in London, call out brands that do really dumb things on Facebook. Now again, you're going to giggle because some of these things you may look familiar. Anyone know what this campaign's for? I'm not sure whether it's a client of yours. It is Eurofed, yeah. Not sure why you would say that on the Facebook page. When I was at the business school, I called out a couple of business schools because both Harvard Business School was saying an entrepreneur needs blank to be successful, right? And Stanford was saying a great leader is blank and blank. That's really dumb. I mean, it doesn't actually drive engagement. It gets lots of likes. You can go back to the social media manager or the CEO and say, hey, this week we got 87 likes, right? Did it actually sell you? I don't know. We got 87 likes. I love these ones. Name a movie which does not have an S in the title. That's really intelligent stuff. This is for a radio station. Maybe I go and watch the radio, listen to the radio station. This is one of my favourites. This is a brand new one from Walmart. March is National Nutrition Month. Like if you watch the Peach Live, or share if you like the Time Sage. However, I saw one last night from my old hometown, where I think it's actually it's something you can say. So this is a beautiful picture of Kangaroo Island, one of nature's hidden secrets in South Australia. And they're basically saying the kangaroos on Kangaroo Island are so friendly they pop up right to you as Nicole has discovered. What's your best memory of Kangaroo Island? It's not asking you to fill in a blank, it's basically saying share a memory. And guess what? People have said, yeah, it's amazing. I remember when I was there. That's engagement. It's not forcing a product down your neck or making you do something. If I went up to you in a pub and said, your favourite film is blank, you would go like that. Whereas if you say, I have this great plan to Kangaroo Island, tell me more. That's a conversation. And I think we need to start moving the needle to this forced advertising through to a real conversation. Now, a bit of theory for you, and the students at LBS love this, but this is from 2009. Well, this is the traditional marketing funnel. But it's some work that McKinsey did in 2009 to look at where the traditional marketing funnel has gone from, and this all makes perfect sense to you, and we're trying to do this every single day. But just let's look for a moment at the consumer of the future. This is my 6-year-old daughter, Madeline. She is techno-savvy, she has her own Twitter account and own website because Daddy still is. But this was a picture taken at Starbucks after swimming a couple of weeks ago. Her treat is on the way back from swimming. I go to Starbucks and she gets to play with the iPad. I looked over what she was doing and I said, Madeline, what are you doing? Oh, I'm reading reviews, Daddy. This app I think we should get, it's Dream Penthouse. I'm just reading the reviews. And I said, why are you doing that, Madeline? Well, Mummy, when she goes and buys things from Amazon, she looks at the reviews to see if they're any good. And I think this is a great game, Daddy, and we should buy it. So your consumer of the future, young Madeline here, is actually reading reviews from someone she and I have never met to basically make a purchase decision to say, I think, Daddy, we should get this game. So she's not reading ads, she's reading consumer-generated reviews. Now, this is sacrilege saying it where I am, but I don't read ads anymore. When I want to look at a product I'm thinking of buying, I go to my network to find someone who's actually used it. Not a celebrity who's been paid 7 figures to promote it, not a paid blogger who is contractually obliged to say that the brand is great. I want to find someone that's actually used it and I thought it was okay or not bad. Because I'm taking a risk using some of these products, so I want to find someone. And more often than not, I'll go to Twitter or my network and I'll find a review from someone I've never met but I trust because I know them. I'm not strange, I'm just 3 or 4 years ahead of the curve. And this is where consumers are going to go, well, I'm actually going to see what a real person thinks of the product. Because I know that if Kim Kardashian says the product is great, she probably has been contractually obliged to mention that. And I'm not sure whether celebrity endorsements will actually be around in 10 years' time. Who knows who this person is? Yeah, and if you're not sure, thankfully they put her name up there for you. I saw that, I thought this is crazy. If she's so famous and they've paid her 7 figures to promote Marie Chandon, why do you have to put her name up there? Just back to Kim Kardashian in Union Square in San Francisco a few months ago, there was a huge billboard and the top right said Kim Kardashian. So even though celebrities, they've got to remind you how famous they are so you use the product. Like I said, I'm not driven to drink my own because she's holding the bottle. I would probably ask someone who was a wine connoisseur about what's the best champagne. So back to McKinsey, this is where they say the marketing fund has gone. This was back in 2009. This is more relevant now than ever before. They're saying it's now loop. The consideration set actually is more fragmented. What they're saying in 2009, I think makes sense now, is there are so many choices, consumers are putting fewer things in the consideration set because it's just too hard, because you're throwing too many things out there. What's happening here though, is this is where social comes into its own. The evaluation phase is where people say, hey Andrew, what do you think of? Which one should I buy? Is this better than the other? And so social is having an impact here. And now, when I bought it, if I like it, I go into this loyalty loop and I never do another consideration again. You want me in that space. And this is where you start talking about advocates and influencers. This is where credit and cloud numbers come in. But they've got to be used with care, because just because I have the highest credit score does not mean I'm going to be a true advocate. I think I'm a real advocate for a couple of reasons. First of all, if I haven't been paid to promote the product, I'm actually using it. And secondly, if my brand is at risk, if I'm endorsing a product because I like it and it doesn't work for me, my brand is at risk. The test for me is, haven't been paid or haven't been given any consideration, or maybe it's I've disclosed my consideration. But I really do like it, is where I think you need to use these advocates. Who's heard of EE? Are they fine? Before I talk about them, not yet? Okay. EE launched a 4G network. I'm an early adopter. I like having all the new stuff. So October 30th, the day that 4G launched in the UK last year, I went to the store to try and get 4G Wi-Fi. Cut the long story short, because it's a blog post you can read in detail about what happened. They sent me the wrong SIM card, not once but twice. The other problem they have is a huge amount of brand confusion, because they're both Orange and T-Mobile and EE, and even I'm confused. You should talk to their internal staff. So 3 or 4 days after the SIM card didn't work, the second SIM card was sent and it still didn't work because they'd sent me a T-Mobile SIM, not an EE SIM. I tweeted because when I was on the phone complaining, I said, look, I haven't had this for a whole week. Who do I complain to? Oh, so if you go to the website, there's a policy thing, terms and conditions, click that and send the form off. I said, I'm sorry, Brenda, who I was speaking to, I don't fill in forms, I tweet. So I tweeted, hey EE, so want to go to 4G but have been at 0G since yesterday, and there's a picture of my no service. Anyone figure a guess of what the response was from the team there? Andrew, if you tweet either Orange Helpers or T-Mobile UK Help, will be able to look into this for you. So not only did they not know I was a business EE customer, they were basically saying, sort it out yourself. So what happened next? I blogged for 6, 7, 8 years. I don't have a lot of people reading. I maybe get 100 or 200 a day reading my blog, londoncorn.co. But something magical happened. I had 10,000 views. And I was talked about in the Telegraph newspaper, and then the blog was linked and I had more views. And that's my normal day. But what happened? 200 tweet reshares, 41 likes. That's a fairly decent day for me in terms of my blog. What had happened was I hit a nerve because people that actually follow me thought, if Andrew's having problems, that's probably a big deal. Maybe we should stay away from the service until they fix the problems. So what I did is I went to meet with EE, and I said, look, and this is separate from credit. We don't have a commercial relationship. This is Andrew Grill and EE. We'd love them to be a customer, but not just yet. I said, you need to have an advocate program, not an influencer one. You actually find some advocates. So they gave me an iPad for free, disclaimer, and 12 months of service. And I said, there are 4 others you also need to do the same with. And EE agreed. So there are 5 of us out there now that have a device. All that EE have asked is once a month, we'd like you to tweet or blog about your experience, good or bad. And they're taking risks. Back to what I said about advocates, I'm also taking risks because EE haven't fixed all the problems. It's still a bit dodgy in some areas. But I've got a nice free iPad. But I'm not going all out saying EE are fantastically brilliant because there are still issues, because my brand is at risk. If I go out and say EE is fantastic and you try it, it's rubbish, people will then blog about it. In fact, what happened is one of the guys I didn't select said, look, I've held this back so long, I'm really annoyed with EE. They've really mucked up the whole thing. And what I did, now I have a relationship with EE, their PR team. I then sent this straight to them, and I'm told I get treated the same way as Jonathan Ross. I'm now part of the exec team handling unit, so if Jonathan Ross complains, I get the same level of service. And this particular blogger basically said, yep, it's come up trumps, thanks to Andrew, it's all being fixed, the advocate program's working. In fact, the advocate program's even been critiqued about whether EE are crazy. And to complete the loop, there's this guy that you just met that has a blog with a couple of hundred followers who tweeted and blogged about EE. 2 Wednesdays ago, Sky News rang me and said, we want someone to comment on the 4G the option, are you available? I was in Switzerland, so we did a Skype interview, so I got on Sky News, talking about my experience with the air. So I'm an advocate, I'm apparently become an influencer in this space, and Sky News found me on my blog and rang me up and did an interview. It's not to big note myself, I'm just saying that as the CEO of Cred, I actually have first-hand experience at what it's like to be an influencer and how brands will react, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work from both the brand side and the influencer side. And I'd love to talk to any of you afterwards, because I would rather you get it right by talking to someone who's been through the process and know how it works, rather than thinking that someone with a high Cred or clout score is the absolute perfect person for us. Everyone heard the United Rex guitars? This is a 2009 example of what happened. Dave Carroll, who's a guitarist, had a problem with United. They were throwing his bags around. This is his video, not what actually happened. He complained to United Airlines. For 9 months they did nothing, and he said to them, I'm going to write 3 songs about you. One of them was called United Rex Guitars. The rest is history. Pre-Game and Style, that was a fairly big number on YouTube, and it knocked about $180 million off United share price. So social is now becoming a real hazard for some of these brands, and he got a bit burnt, but they've learned from it. They've done a lot of things since then, and I think for the better. Now we talked about followers and likes. You can actually go to the website by a company called Status People. The short link is here, lc.t or fake. Type in that and see if they think that your followers are fake. Because followers and likes can be bought. I had a client ring me the other day, I won't mention who it was, but I said, Andrew, we need 150 more followers by Friday. And I said, why? Well, we committed to the client that by the end of the month we have 300, we're 150 short. And I said, first of all, ethically I wouldn't do this. Personally and professionally, that's wrong, and I would not support what you're doing. Secondly, it's almost impossible to just get followers like that in a few days. But if you'd like to pay $5 to Fiverr.com, you can have 10,000 followers overnight. They weren't sure what to do with that, but I said it's just meaningless. If you've committed to your client a number and you're short of it, it's because you haven't done the job. People don't want to follow your account because it's not interesting. So you can gain this. The best example recently I read in the Wall Street Journal is bestseller lists are apparently being gained. If you're writing a book, the trick is, the day before it goes public, you get all of your friends to do a bulk buy and make sure all the bulk buys get counted as individual sales. It shoots through the roof, it launches a bestseller. What then happens is next week no one buys it, they return it all, and you get listed as a bestseller. And it's apparently a big scam now, and all these bestseller lists are being questioned. So you can scam Twitter, you can scam Facebook, you can scam bestseller lists. You can even scam life. Am I really Andrew Grill? Probably I am. But the point is, human beings are crazy animals and they will do anything to become famous. I just want to spend a couple of seconds on, and this is what I presented the guys last week, real-time marketing. Everyone knows what real-time marketing is, a new buzzword. Super Bowl a few weeks ago, powered out for 45 minutes. The one brand that really capitalised was Oreo. Oreo sent a tweet saying, power out, no problem, you can still dunk in the dark. This was 369 in New York. Really, really smart. Now why was it so smart? One, they had no idea the power cut was going to happen. They couldn't prepare for this. They didn't know how long it would last for, maybe it's a few seconds, a few minutes. Why it worked is they were in a room like this, they had their social media team, the brand team, the client, everyone was there to make a decision, the copywriters, and they basically did this ad in a few minutes and put it out. That, for me, is really smart. Now, did it make me buy more Oreos? No. We're still talking about it. So what happened a few weeks later at the Oscars? Everyone thought, we'll copy that. While the Oscars are on, we'll just hashtag things Oscar and see how things go. So, Bing had a really good attempt, not. Oscar get 45, yeah, so what? Sprint had a fairly good attempt, linking Lincoln to cell phones. Yeah, kind of there. Victoria's Secret just said how Jennifer Hudson killed it at the included hashtag. This is almost like ambush marketing. I mean, consumers call this out and go, this is BS, because this is a 6-second fine for, I didn't know it was for, lean cuisine or something. My point is that the Oreo one was classic. They really judged the moment and they were lucky that they could do things very quickly. But this, I think, is a really bad attempt. And what happens is consumers look at this and they go, you're just trying to ambush my show, get off my show. So influence. I want to talk a little bit about influence. I think I've built up that they're important. The challenge is how do you measure influence and how do you know whether I'm useful for your brand versus someone else. First of all, health warning. Whichever platform, cloud, credit, whatever, you need a health warning. It is not always the biggest number that is the most important person. And I tried a trick. I was in New York late last year at a conference called the Pivot Conference. 120 people in the room. I said, I'm going to create a pivot score in this room. I got the whole room to think of a number between 1 and 100. Interestingly, no one thought of 100. The top one was 93, the next highest was 87. I said, the top two, come out, stand next to me. So I said, I'm going to choose one of you for a job based on a pivot doesn't mean they're the right person. And what's really, really dangerous is there are people out there who bring these on their CVs to say, hey, I've got a 7, well, I've got an 8, I'm fantastic. It's where you have influence that's important. Because I would never want you to hire me or anyone based on a score. What you want to do is work out where I have influence. And if you go to credit.com, this is the sponsored content part of the presentation, completely free, credit.com, sign up, / your Twitter name, we'll show you your credit score and where you have influence. But also, if you have a brand ad name, you can put the brand in there. So if I put at Starbucks in there, it will give me a reflection of what people think of the Starbucks Twitter handle on social media. And it looks a bit like this. So we look at where people are talking about you, what content is really resonating, all this sort of stuff, this analytics is available. So before you choose me or anyone as an influencer, go through what they talk about. The difference with Cred from other sites like Cloud is you can actually see if you're being gamed. Cred actually allows every single tweet, every single interaction is shown. We also explain how we score. So if I'm sitting hitting their retweet button every day to try and get more points and get some free stuff from you, it will become very, very evident. So I think transparency in this whole influencer space is what's missing, and we seem to be the only site that actually, from day one, has been really, really transparent. So some best practice on influencer, given I think I speak from a position of authority. It takes time. The person who rang me about 150 followers or influencers wasn't going to get that completed in 3 days. It's a relationship. Just as those of you that deal with journalists or bloggers, it takes a while. And what EE have done with me is invested 12 months of their time and money in actually talking to us. I've met with them 4 times now, we've had lunch a couple of times, we have a relationship, I know how. If something breaks, if someone actually has, in fact the other week, someone put a really nasty comment in my blog about something that EE had done to them. I didn't publish that comment, I forwarded it to Howard and said, how do you need to fix this guy's problem? So in a way I was actually censoring my own content, but I wanted EE to succeed, I wanted Howard to fix this guy's problem, and I think he has. CRM. You can't force people to give you their Twitter handle, but the power of actually asking them and telling them what you're going to do with it cannot be underestimated. So I would love every brand you represent to know all about me. I have 25,000 tweets over the last 4 or 5 years. I'm insanely overt about what I talk about. If you look at just some of those tweets, you work out what brands I like and dislike. So if you were to link in your CRM my app name or my Facebook profile, you would know a lot more about me. Because I think social media is the best piece of market research you've ever commissioned. It's free data. You can actually look at all this stuff. The challenge is how do you link Andrew Grill to Andrew Grill? That's fairly easy. And I know I've actually been having discussions with some of the team here about how we actually help clients that have got lots of big CRMs and actually pulling that in. And that's, I think, forget influence scores, forget Twitter, forget Facebook. I'll talk about social business in a minute. This is where the real rubber hits the road because a company's CRM is like gold to them. And if I can tell you more about the clients that are talking about you and add that to the CRM, I think that's very powerful. Obviously, all of you here get social. I know there's an Ogilvy leaderboard that actually shows who has the most credit in the agency. But a number of times I go into an agent, I'm not going to do it now, but I ask who's been a blogger, and no hands go up. And I say, I should be handling here, I'm a blogger. I've been blogging for a number of years. Unless you do it, it's very hard to understand how it works or be close to someone that actually does it. We talked about this. The person with the high score was definitely not the person that's right for your brand. I had someone today who talked to me saying they were the highest in this and the highest in that. In fact, if you tell someone you're the best in something, you're probably not. Influence is earned. So if someone says that I know what I'm talking about, I'm very flattered, but I don't go around saying I know what I'm talking about. It's up to you to decide that. And transparency, unless you know how the score is calculated, it really is a game because that 71 can and often is gained. You should measure everything. So once you've found me as an influencer, am I on brand? Am I talking about the brand? Am I saying good or bad things? Is there some content that maybe I could share that you could push my way? And once you've found them, what do we do with them? That's the question I get asked the most. Once you've found these wonderful influencers, Andrew, what the heck do we do with them? You talk to them, they're human beings, you bring them into the agency, you go for a cup of coffee, you build that relationship. I know myself, even what I said before, my relationship with you is changing because now I've got some friends there. I actually value the relationship I have and I've got to get to a mile. We did something recently with the brand. This is the gold tweet. So this was for something we did with eBay. And they were sponsoring the British Jury Card Championship. They were sending people to the track, and this person tweeted, watching eBay Motors BT16 official WSR, then end up on eBay buying tools I don't need just because I'm seeing text with them. That's the gold tweet because we influenced this person to use eBay to buy motor tools. our key influence, and you can't forget what they're doing. They need constant watering and feeding a bit of blood. You need to reward them. And we, like others, can send stuff to them. I can talk about that with you afterwards, but there are programs where we can actually run campaigns as well. I want to change gears now and use the time I have available to talk about social business. And this, for me, is a personal hobby horse, because I've spent so long in social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff. The real value, I think, is in social business, where everything that's happening on social media gets plugged into the enterprise. It's now big companies that are saying, we want to basically do this, we're doing the Facebook and Twitter stuff fairly well, we actually want to be able to do this deep inside the enterprise. So I think it's actually three different areas of social business. There's the people side. This is nothing to do with Twitter and Facebook, this is change management, this is stuff happening inside your own organisation, how you collaborate, how you talk, how you share information. Have you thought about having a credit score internally? I'm not sure whether you're through Megaphone or Yammer or Chatter, you actually talk to each other. If you could take a feed of that, we run a credit score across that, we could find who's most influential in the agency about a certain topic. So before a pitch on QR codes, you can go, who is the QR dude in the agency, either here in London or anywhere, that really knows their stuff? And so what we could do is actually find the right person. It's about process. Again, nothing about Twitter or Facebook, it's about governance. It's got to be led from the top. The reason Burberry is doing so well in social and digital is that the CEO basically said, we're going to do this. And I'm going to surround myself with people that really get social. Expansion, measurement, philosophy, all the sort of people stuff. And then it comes to technology, where we can add tools and Radiant 6 and all that sort of stuff. But without these as well, you're not really a social business. A lot of people are just doing this, they're doing all the measurement, they're saying it's great, we've got lots of likes, but it isn't actually getting through to everywhere else. Now, the reason I know this is becoming important is because big consulting firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers are now seeing, they've done a CEO survey, they've done it every year. In the introduction, it basically said, with social media giving a voice to everyone, diverse groups of stakeholders, CEOs have recognised the need to secure a stronger social mandate. So CEOs, C-suite is now going, I get this whole social stuff is becoming important. There was a great report by Capgemini that talked about how digital leaders can really excel. It didn't really mention Facebook and Twitter a lot. It talked about this axis of, one was digital intensity. What are you doing in terms of new digital things? And this is the more important. Transformation management. What internally are you doing to change processes? Even down to how you hire people. When you look for someone to hire, are you using all the different resources you have? Looking through my 24,000 tweets, if I send something down Ogilvy, it will be useful, or do I know someone? And they've actually looked at where different companies sit. This is the spot you want to be. You have high transformation management intensity, you're really getting a real change internally, and you're doing lots of stuff in the technology area. The fashionistas, it all looks good, there's no real movement here, and the poor old beginners are not sure what they're doing. And what this report has done is actually broken different industries. Now, media and tech are pretty much in this space. You've got mining and banking sort of over here as well. Why I'm showing you this is important stuff. This is now, big firms are getting it. And what they're saying also is that they're actually more profitable. These Digerati are more profitable. They looked at 300 companies over a 2-year period to see where they actually fitted on the metrics. And guess what? They're most profitable and they generate the most revenue. So while you can dismiss sometimes these consultant reports, it really hit home to me that if businesses want to get here, you're part of the mechanics as well in terms of how you actually present their product to the market. And one of your clients, IBM, has also done a survey on social business, and they talk about the different things. There's the engaging listening, which is probably what we're all doing now, but then knowledge transparency, finding the different capabilities inside the firm, and also new ideas, innovation. How do you actually get that? And it comes down to these sort of things like addressing risk, results, managing change, all that sort of human stuff that CEOs get really excited about. They can't spell Facebook. They don't even know about Twitter. That's the other room. Where this is important is using all this free data about what your clients are saying about your competitors and actually turning it into something that makes sense. And another great box from IBM, this is what the big companies are going to be doing. Storefronts aggregated from different social communities into their processes. Years ago, I was a product developer for a telco, and we relied on really bad market research to work out what customers wanted. But every day, people are telling you on social what they like and dislike. But very few companies are really leveraging this. And again, the CEO of Burberry said that the one company that's going to really make money out of this is the one that can leverage this big data and actually get it into the system and work out why it's a blue trench coat versus a red trench coat. And this is something we put together, different use cases in terms of if you're in customer service, I want to be able to know the social activity of my caller as you're talking to them. So if I'm Amex and someone's ringing up about a card complaint, I that's where it's going to make the most difference. So that's a little bit about influence, a bit about social, a bit about social business. I'd be happy to take any questions, or I'd be happy for you to completely disagree with anything I said. Thank you. Questions, comments, complaints?
Comment probably more than question, but you used this phrase a couple of times earlier. You said that social media is a hazard, and you talk about actually Twitter's a great place to shove a complaint out there. Yeah. I think the one reason why everyone does have such fear of it is the amount of negative impact on a brand or business can be so enormous, so incredibly enormous compared to, I go back to history, things like Perrier's scandal of the past, that kind of thing would probably be much bigger and much worse now, I would imagine. And that feels like that's more of the use that people put to Twitter rather than saying anything positive.
Sure, really good point. I'll take it in two parts. So, any brand that is on Twitter pays the Twitter tax. The Twitter tax basically says, you can now complain about me, and it will expose my 30 years of broken processes. So you're right, Twitter actually amplifies, and it does upset brands because they've made mistakes. But guess what? If they only fix the problem by learning what the problem was, they can actually go back and say on social media, we fixed it. So why banks, high street banks in the UK haven't adopted Twitter in a big way is because they already get, Lloyds alone get 260,000 complaints a year on telephone and email. So why open up to Twitter and get 2 million complaints? Because we know that we have broken processes. When I worked at Optus in Australia, the company was 5 years old and had 46 different legacy processes. So companies grow very quickly and there are problems. So the flip side is, with the Perrier thing, if you do something dumb and you admit you've done something dumb on social media and you're open and transparent, the problem goes away. I'll give you a personal example. So a few weeks ago, we sent out an email to our top influencers with a badge. It was actually a week before LinkedIn, everyone probably copied them, and it said, you're the top 1% influencer on Craig. Now, the people that are 1% influencer are fairly influential and they talk. And I saw this thing happening on Google Plus where people said, no, Craig's just spamming everyone. You've sent this to everyone. You're doing the wrong thing, Craig. I picked up on it and I responded on Google Plus. Rated on the CEO of Craig, we haven't done this is what we did, here are some facts. And a few iterations later, what happened was the community said, you know what, the CEO's come on, he's given us some facts, there's nothing more to talk about, case closed. So I was able to not control the situation, I just jumped in, I was human, I gave the facts, and the community decided that it was not to be discussed anymore. So to your point, yes, social media is the biggest revolution since the internet because I can now talk back to the brand. But if the brand doesn't have any problems, there's nothing to talk about. So it actually is on the company, back to the social business side, and this is really what I'm trying to say. Back here, in all these areas here, this is where we've got to get their processes working. Because otherwise I can see, so what the problem was with my SIM card, it was a human error. When they went to pick the MiFi and the SIM card, they picked the wrong one twice. It was a process issue. And if I'd never blogged about it, that probably would have happened for weeks and weeks and weeks. The result of what I did was straight away, the executive team at the board level got on with this and said, let's fix this problem. They found out root cause and fixed it. So within 3 days, that problem was fixed. So while we think I actually caused them £1 million worth of lost revenue, bad, I helped fix a problem that other people aren't now experiencing. Yes, it was done in a very public way, but if I hadn't done that, I would have been speaking on the phone for years. So to your point, yes, it's bad for a brand, but if you fix your problems or acknowledge you're fixing them, the community will self-regulate. And I've seen that time and time again. But for an advertiser, you don't want bad stuff. Don't make mistakes. Do good stuff. Yeah, the back, yes.
I completely agree with you as far as sort of the area of social business and how that's going to change organisations. What would you say would be the biggest challenge? I mean, social media means that organisations now will have huge amounts of data to deal with. How do you think they're set up to sort of be able to handle all of that? What do you think the challenge is?
It's a huge challenge. So our business, back in 2008, we got access to Twitter Firehose. We're one of the few companies that have that. It's a direct connection where our server connected to them. So we get every single tweet in real time and have had since November 2008. Guess how many tweets we have in our database? 150 billion. So we have every single tweet that's public since November 2008. So we live and breathe big data. What do you do with that? How do you go to a IBM or a Nike or whatever and actually do that? So the challenge is that this poor old marketer has been dealing with all the normal stuff, above the line digital for a while now. Now he or she's been thrown all this extra data So I think the role that you can play is make sense of it. Now, the role you shouldn't be playing is reading Facebook posts and saying, having a blatant nice day. You should leave that to other people and actually add the real value to say, let's look at what people are saying about you. Let's give you some insights that actually direct the marketing. Like I said, this social media is free market research. Yes, it's big data, but if you can actually absorb that. Now, the tools out there that are monitoring tools are nice to see what's going on. You really need some humans to make sense of that. So I think the challenge is, do you have enough data scientists? Do you have enough people that know what they're seeing to make sense of that? Because the data is there, but it's a real challenge. And that's what the Burberry CEO said, that the person that harnesses this big data will be the winner, because there's so much rich in there. There's a lot of crap too, mind you, people complaining. But if I'm complaining, so here's the thing. If I am going to pick up my phone and write a tweet, good or bad, about a brand, I've passed a threshold. The threshold is, was it worth whinging about? I'm really happy with the brand, or I'm really annoyed with the brand. The best tweets I've seen are while I've been in Waitrose. Every time I'm in Waitrose, I can't find something. I ask a partner, and they stop what they're doing, walk me halfway across the store and tell me where this thing is. No other store does that. So what I do, I get to my phone, I've gone past that threshold, and I've gone, gee, that Waitrose service is good yet again. And I mention it at Waitrose, I'm sure they feel lovely and they've got another mention. But I feel compelled to tell everyone I've had a great experience. Just as when I had a bad experience with the threshold was passed, and I said I'm having a really bad day with these guys. So I think if you do see a complaint, it's because that threshold's been passed. What you don't see is people going, I just walked past a billboard, whatever. You don't talk about that. So if someone is bothering to